The Stoic path to becoming who you're meant to be. There comes a point in life where you can feel the truth pressing against your chest, a quiet realization that you've been moving, working, surviving, yet not truly becoming the person you sense you were meant to be. It shows up in the moments when the world goes silent, when you're alone with your own thoughts and you notice the gap between your potential and your reality. You know you could be stronger than this, more disciplined than this, more aligned, more purposeful, more honest with yourself, but something keeps pulling you back into the familiar version of who you've always been. You start to wonder how much of your life is truly yours, how many of your choices come from your own inner compass, and how many come from fear, impulse, habits, or other people's expectations. The Stoics understood this feeling well. They believed that the greatest tragedy wasn't misfortune or pain, but a person who goes through life without ever meeting their true self, lost in noise, drowned by distraction, disconnected from the part of them that knows exactly who they're supposed to become. The truth is simple and uncomfortable. Most people never transform because they never pause long enough to confront the distance between who they are and who they know they could be. They keep postponing the moment when they take responsibility for who they're becoming. They wait for clarity, motivation, or the perfect moment. Yet the Stoics taught that personal destiny begins the second you decide to stop betraying your own potential. This path isn't about perfection. It's about choosing intention over impulse, direction over emotion, purpose over noise. The moment you recognize that your life has been shaped by everything except your own inner truth is the moment your transformation begins. This is the moment when the future version of you stops being an idea and starts becoming a direction. The Stoic path to becoming who you're meant to be starts with this first recognition. You cannot continue living as a stranger to yourself. At some point in your life, you stopped being the main author of your own identity. Not intentionally, not dramatically, but quietly. Day after day, piece by piece, you absorbed the expectations, fears, and distractions around you until you woke up living a life that doesn't feel entirely yours. This is the invisible identity trap. The place where you start shaping yourself around noise instead of truth. You follow routines you didn't choose. You chase standards you never questioned. You react to emotions that don't align with the person you want to become. And without noticing, you drift away from yourself in the same way a ship drifts when the captain stops checking the direction of the wind. The Stoics warned about this subtle drift of identity. They believed the greatest danger wasn't external misfortune, but internal disconnection. The moment you forget who you are, you become vulnerable to everything. You start living in reaction, reacting to other people's opinions, reacting to your own impulses, reacting to the chaos of the world. Instead of acting from your deepest values, you move from instinct and emotion, and slowly, without ever choosing it, you become a version of yourself shaped more by the world than by your own reason. Modern life makes this trap even tighter. Constant stimulation steals your attention. Endless comparison steals your confidence. The pursuit of comfort steals your resilience. You become a stranger to your own thoughts because everything around you is designed to fill your mind before you fill it yourself. The Stoics insisted that a life without self-examination is a life lived on autopilot, and autopilot never takes you to who you are meant to be. You begin to reclaim your identity the moment you recognize the difference between what is truly yours and what has been imposed on you. You start questioning every internal voice that pushes you toward distraction, doubt, or emotional chaos. You begin separating your true desires from your fears, your real values from society's noise, your authentic direction from the impulses that try to pull you off your path. This work is quiet, challenging, and uncomfortable, but it is the foundation of becoming your truest self. Once you see the identity trap clearly, something powerful happens. You stop drifting. You stop letting the world vote on the kind of person you should become. You reclaim your inner authority, because the Stoic path is not about becoming someone new, It's about returning to the person you were always meant to be before the world told you who you should become. Before you can become who you're meant to be, you must confront the state of your inner world. Not the image you project, not the routines you claim to follow, but the truth of what happens inside your own mind when no one is watching. The Stoics believed that every transformation begins with order, because a chaotic mind will always sabotage the life you're trying to build. You can want discipline, you can desire growth, you can envision your highest self, but if your inner world is disorganized, emotional, cluttered, and reactive, you will always fall back into the version of you that feels safest, instead of the version of you that feels destined. Chaos shows up in ways most people never question. Rushing through your day without clarity, waking up overwhelmed, jumping from one impulse to another, seeking escape instead of direction, letting emotions decide the quality of your choices. This is the silent erosion of potential, not because you're weak, but because your mind has become a battlefield filled with noise, tension, and scattered attention, and inside that mental confusion, you lose the ability to act with intention. You react instead of choosing. The Stoics insisted that a person who cannot command their inner state will never command their life, not because life is impossible, but because your actions will always mirror the condition of your mind. If your mind is frantic, your decisions will be rushed. If your mind is fogged with doubt, your path will remain unclear. If your mind is filled with distractions, your future will be shaped by impulses, not purpose. This is why the first step in Stoic transformation is to create internal stillness, not external change. Inner order is not about being emotionless. It is about refusing to be led by emotions that distort your judgment. It is about choosing reason over reaction, clarity over confusion, direction over chaos. Inner order means clearing the mental space where your true identity can emerge. Without this space, your future self has no room to breathe, no room to grow, no room to take shape inside you. You begin building inner order when you start confronting your thoughts instead of running from them. When you stop numbing discomfort and start understanding its purpose. When you replace impulsive reactions with deliberate choices. When you learn to sit with your emotions long enough for them to become information instead of instructions. In that stillness, you begin to reclaim your own mind. And the moment you reclaim your mind, your future becomes possible. This is why the Stoics spoke so powerfully about the discipline of attention. The life you want will never grow inside a restless mind. Becoming who you are meant to be requires creating the inner conditions that allow that version of you to exist. The world may be chaotic, but your mind must not be. Because the path forward only becomes visible in the quiet spaces of your own clarity. There comes a moment in every person's life when the path splits. On one side stands the familiar version of you, the one shaped by emotion, habit, and the comfort of what you already know. On the other side stands the person you sense you could become, the version of you who acts with intention, discipline, and a deeper sense of purpose. The Stoics believed that your entire destiny is determined in the moment you choose between these two selves, not once but repeatedly, in the quiet decisions you make every day. Most people never cross that threshold because they keep negotiating with their feelings. They wait to feel ready, motivated, inspired, confident, or certain. But the Stoics taught that feelings are unreliable guides. They rise and fall with circumstances. They distort judgment. They pull you back toward comfort, even when comfort is the very thing holding you back. This is why the Stoics spoke of prohairesis, the inner faculty that separates action from emotion. To them, true growth begins the moment you stop letting your feelings shape your decisions and start letting your values shape them instead. The turning point is not dramatic. It is quiet, deliberate, and internal. It is the moment you decide that your future self is more important than the discomfort of the present moment. You choose discipline, even when you feel resistance. You choose clarity, even when confusion seems easier. You choose long-term growth over immediate relief. This shift is subtle, but it rewrites your entire identity because it places you back in control of who you are becoming. When you begin making choices that align with the person you want to be, something powerful happens. You stop betraying yourself. You stop waking up with the weight of knowing you ignored your own potential. You start building a new internal reputation, one based on respect rather than regret. The Stoics understood that the greatest source of strength comes from living in harmony with your own principles. The more you honor the future version of yourself, the stronger you become. And the stronger you become, the easier it is to choose that future again. This turning point is not a single moment, it is a pattern, a new way of interacting with yourself. Every time you choose intentional action over emotional reaction, you reinforce the identity of the person you are becoming. The decision compounds, momentum builds, a new self begins to take shape. And with each choice, the gap between who you are and who you're meant to be grows smaller. Becoming your highest self is not a matter of talent or luck. It is the result of consistent internal choices that place your future above your feelings. This is the moment the Stoic path truly begins. Not when life becomes easier, but when you stop letting temporary emotions dictate your destiny. Knowledge means nothing until it shapes the way you live. The Stoics understood this better than anyone. They believed that who you are becoming is revealed not in your intentions, but in your repeated actions. You can read every book, listen to every lesson, and feel deeply inspired in moments of clarity, yet none of it changes you until it becomes practice. Becoming who you are meant to be is not an idea. It is a daily training of character, a rehearsal of the person you intend to become long before the world can see it. Modern life encourages passive learning. You consume information, feel motivated for a few minutes, then return to the same patterns as before. But the Stoics insisted that wisdom must be lived, tested, and embodied. They believed that character is built through repetition, not through inspiration. You become courageous by acting with courage. You become disciplined by choosing discipline when it's least convenient. You become resilient by refusing to retreat from discomfort. Identity is shaped through consistent behavior, not through fleeting emotion. This practice is not glamorous, it is quiet, steady, and relentless. It is the decision to show up even when you don't feel like it. It is choosing intention instead of impulse. It is removing distractions that weaken your character. It is learning to sit with discomfort instead of escaping it. These small actions recalibrate your mind, strengthen your will, and align your behavior with your highest self. They signal to your brain that you are no longer negotiating with your lesser impulses. You are training them, taming them, and redirecting them toward who you want to be. The Stoics also believed in intentional hardship. They understood that voluntary challenges develop inner strength in ways comfort never can. When you push yourself into disciplined practice, even in small ways, you are teaching your mind that it can endure, adapt, and grow. You are creating internal evidence that you can rely on yourself. And nothing transforms a person faster than proving to themselves over and over that they follow through on what they say they value. Over time, this practice evolves into identity. You begin acting from your future self instead of forcing yourself into action. What was once effort becomes instinct. What once felt difficult becomes natural. You stop striving to become the person you want to be and start living as that person. This is the essence of Stoic transformation. You practice the traits until they feel like home. You repeat the behaviors until they reshape your character. You live the wisdom until it becomes who you are. Becoming who you are meant to be is a continuous practice, not a sudden change. It is the accumulation of 1,000 small decisions that build a new internal foundation. And once that foundation is in place, your entire life begins to shift around it. You no longer chase growth. You embody it. Every transformation demands a moment of separation. a moment when you stop trying to carry the weight of your past into the life you are trying to build. Most people never reach their higher potential because they cling to identities, habits, environments, and emotional patterns that no longer fit the person they want to become. The Stoics understood that you cannot evolve while staying loyal to the version of yourself you are trying to outgrow. Growth requires a quiet, deliberate breaking away. This separation is not dramatic. It is not about cutting people off or burning your life down. It is about recognizing that certain patterns once served you, but now limit you. It is about understanding that comfort can become a cage. It is about acknowledging that the familiar version of you feels safe only because it is predictable, not because it is right. When you begin to step into your future self, your old ways of thinking will resist. They will try to pull you back into who you were, reminding you of your fears, your doubts, your failures, and every reason why change feels impossible. This is the moment when separation becomes essential. The Stoics believed that every person carries a set of internal attachments that keep them anchored to the past. These attachments can be emotional habits, destructive thought patterns, the need for approval, or the fear of discomfort. You cannot drag these attachments into the life you want. They are too heavy, too restrictive, too tied to the person you no longer wish to be. Separation begins when you stop arguing with your past and start walking toward your future with deliberate steps, even if those steps feel uncertain. You separate by refusing to let old emotions dictate your new identity. You separate by choosing actions that contradict your former limitations. You separate by letting go of the internal narratives that say you are not capable, not ready, or not worthy. This inner detachment is a form of liberation. It clears the mental space you need for growth. It allows your future self to speak louder than the echoes of who you once were. The world around you may not notice this separation at first, but you will. You'll feel moments of resistance, moments of doubt, moments when the old identity tries to reclaim control. These moments are not signs of failure. They are signs that you are standing at the threshold of transformation. The Stoics taught that the self is shaped by what you repeatedly choose to leave behind. The more you practice this quiet separation, the more you create internal freedom, the kind that no external force can take away. Becoming who you are meant to be requires releasing the version of you that was built by fear, distraction, and survival. It requires allowing the old identity to fade so the new one can rise. Separation is not loss, it is refinement. It is the clearing of a path so your future self can finally step forward without being held back. Transformation doesn't announce itself. It does not arrive with applause, confidence, or a sudden surge of clarity. It reveals itself quietly in subtle internal shifts that most people overlook. The Stoics taught that real change is not measured by how different your life looks, but by how different your inner world feels. When you begin becoming the person you are meant to be, the first signs appear not in your achievements, but in your alignment. You notice it when your decisions start matching your values instead of your impulses. You no longer choose the easiest option. You choose the one that honors your future self. You no longer run from discomfort. You face it with a steadier mind. You no longer sabotage your own progress. You protect it because you recognize its significance. These small shifts are the early markers of a deeper identity forming beneath the surface. You feel it in the quiet moments when you realize you aren't abandoning yourself anymore. You no longer break promises to your own potential. You no longer wake up carrying the same regret that once followed you daily. You move with a sense of direction that does not depend on motivation. There is a growing calm inside you, a calm built from clarity rather than denial. Your life may still be imperfect, but your inner posture is changing. You are beginning to stand differently in your own life. Another proof emerges in how you respond to adversity. Instead of collapsing under pressure, you pause, you breathe, you observe your emotions without being controlled by them. You act from reason instead of panic. Troubles that once overwhelmed you now sharpen your focus. Challenges become opportunities to practice the identity you are building. This resilience is not loud, but it is unmistakable. It is the strength that comes from living in alignment with who you are meant to be. You also begin to notice a shift in what you tolerate. The habits that once numbed you no longer satisfy you. The distractions that once consumed you no longer hold your attention. The environments that kept you stagnant begin to feel too small for the person you are becoming. You outgrow things quietly, without resentment, because you sense your life expanding internally before it expands externally. The Stoics believed that the greatest sign of personal growth is inner tranquility. Not the absence of problems, but the presence of a stable mind that does not collapse under them. When you feel this stability rising within you, even in small doses, it is proof that the transformation is real. It is proof that you are meeting yourself at a deeper level. It is proof that your future self is no longer an idea, but a living reality taking shape inside you. This silent proof is sacred because it is yours alone. No one can see it as clearly as you can. No one can measure it. But you feel it. You recognize it. You know you are finally stepping into the life that once felt out of reach. And once you sense this internal shift, there is no going back. Your true path has already begun. Every person reaches a point where continuing as they are becomes more painful than changing. You're standing at that point now. You can feel it in the tension between your potential and your patterns, in the quiet discomfort that follows you when you know you're capable of more than the life you're repeating. The Stoics taught that destiny is not something you wait for. It is something you choose in the smallest decisions you make each day. And right now, you are standing at the doorway of that choice. Becoming who you're meant to be will not happen by accident. It will not appear in a burst of motivation or a perfect moment. It begins the moment you decide that your future is worth more than your excuses. It begins when you stop negotiating with your lesser impulses and start aligning with your highest values. It begins when you choose direction over distraction, intention over impulse, and character over comfort. This is the point where most people turn back, not because the path is impossible, but because remaining the same feels easier than confronting what needs to change. But you are not most people. There is a reason you feel the pull toward a higher version of yourself. There is a reason your mind keeps returning to the idea that you are meant for more. That voice inside you isn't imagination, it's recognition. It is the part of you that remembers your true potential and refuses to let you ignore it. The Stoics believed that the greatest betrayal isn't failing others. It is failing yourself by refusing the path you know is yours. The life you want is already waiting for you, but it cannot begin until you step into it. Until you stop living as a reaction to your emotions and start living as a reflection of your principles. Until you decide that the person you are becoming deserves the same loyalty you've given to your fears. The path forward is not easy, but it is clear. You choose it one decision at a time, one disciplined action at a time, one moment of honesty at a time. You do not need to transform your entire life today. You only need to stop delaying the moment you begin. Because the truth is simple. The longer you wait, the more you drift. The more you drift, the further you move from the person you are capable of being. And the longer you stay loyal to the old version of yourself, the harder it becomes to hear the voice calling you forward. This is your turning point. This is the moment when your future stops being a possibility and becomes a responsibility. Choose the path that leads you toward your highest self. Choose the path that strengthens you, steadies you, and aligns you with your inner truth. Choose the Stoic path that pulls you out of who you were and guides you into who you were meant to be. The choice is in front of you, and it cannot wait any longer.